時をかける希望恐竜戦隊10連ジャー
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Chojin Chumps. We are back after a small hiatus. My brother here just got through with his hell week of finals. How'd they go for you?
Actually, I think I pretty much aced them all. I got some BS critique, but everyone's a critic.
I mean,
Talking to you, comment section.
quite literally, that is the job of the professors to critique you.
Don't get me started on the education system. But we're not here for that. We're here for happier things. Happier things such as brand new microphones.
Oh yeah, we are recording with a brand new set of mics. So bear with us as we try to figure out the right distance and everything. I don't want to be right in your ear talking them sweet, sweet chumps to you, but I also don't want to be too loud or too far away. So we're gonna try our best.
Hey, I'm not the one that's so far away.
I'm glad to be back talking about Sentai because we, like I mentioned, we have been waiting for Final Stand. And I just want to point out how just full of joy Sentai makes me. It has really been the highlight of my weeks. And so in that note, let's go into it. We're going to cover episodes 7 and 8. Because remember how I said we were done with the two-parters? Jay,
so you thought.
No, we apparently we're not. So while we originally were going to cover 7 through 9, 7 through 8 is going to have to deal. And so, episode 7, I Can See. And it begins with a kid who has a present to give to a young girl, but she rejects him like right away. He's sitting there.
The classic Team Rocket taunting of like, bleh.
Yeah, she pulls down her.
Pulling out the eye.
Yeah, she pulls down her eyelid, sticks out her tongue, and walks off. And our poor boy is left sad. And we're not giving context for this really. It's just we're seeing it happen. And at that moment, the fucking goblin dude appears. He's up on a billboard and he's just playing music. And the young girl, her name is Machiko, right?
Yeah, I think.
Sees him and she's like, "Mommy, there's a monster up on the billboard." And her mom's like, "I can't see it. He must be John Cena."
Surely my child must be full of shit.
Yeah.
We've only had space witches and griffins attacking the city this week, but...
Okay, so this monster looks just like an ugly dude in a Viking outfit with an accordion.
Which, let's be honest, the accordion is the worst transgression of the whole set.
Worst transgression? Yeah. Here's the thing, though. As soon as I saw him, my legitimate response was, "Oh, this fucker." Because I can't help it to compare them to Mighty Morphin whenever I see these monsters. And here, I can see why they had to do something different. It's definitely a weirder one. And I think ultimately somewhat more successful. So the monster plays the accordion. He's only visible to children. And at this point, Dora Goblin hops down, or more like poofs into her, right?
Yeah, they use teleporting very liberally in Zyuranger.
And he dances around her as he sings and plays the accordion, and he sings a song about her getting lost. And here's where it gets fucking weird. She starts to spin around and around following him until she ends up, it's like this speed lapse of her running. And you see trees and shit just flying in the background until she ends up at a bus stop where Topet and Bookback, and I love this because they're always, I think they're awesome supporting characters because they actually
they are some of my favorite in this series. Like let's be honest, in Power Rangers, they were there. Always saw them at the base. I don't ever recall them seeing out of the base. I don't recall them seeing them do really anything. And so for them to always be somehow in the plot, and not even in a significant way, but like when they were in the audience cheering the quiz game.
Yeah.
And when we say that they're there in the bus, they're dressed like bus drivers, where they have the hats and like the small uniforms, and so it's just like it, it's such an enjoyable thing to see them. Like I dig their versions in this show.
Definitely. So she is brought on, sat down with a bunch of other kids. And I believe it's book back. He goes to her and he's like, the fair. And suddenly her heart or energy comes out of her that forms the shape of a heart in his palm. And then turns into this like blue.
Turns into one of those dollar store bouncy balls you used to be able to get.
Yeah.
You shouldn't chew on, yet it was oddly addictive.
We might need to have a talk about your eating habits.
Yes.
But
not now.
Um,
Please, Jonathan, not in front of the fan base.
Thank you for all one of you who are listening, and thanks, Mom. Anyway, so he takes their minds, and here's where it gets weird. So they start driving off because even though it took her metaphorically to a bus stop elsewhere, at the same time,
middle of a forest.
In the middle of a forest, it was still somehow in the middle of where they were. So the bus takes off, and the young boy, what was his name? Do you remember?
I honestly don't ever remember catching his name. I just wrote kid throughout my notes.
Okay, we'll call him. And the kid looks at the bus, sees it being driven by monsters, sees her there, and starts chasing after them. And here's where it gets weirder. So, the kids are physically there, but physically is the wrong word for what we find out. The kids are there, but they're like empty inside. And then we find out.
Pretty much like lobotomized. There's like nothing to them. There's no substance in them anymore.
Yeah. So it then shifts to the Ranger hideout.
But before we get to the Rangers, I just want to give my initial thoughts on this introduction to everything.
Go ahead.
One, I thought it was weird because when I saw the Goblin and I saw his powers, I was going to focus on children, I thought maybe a Pied Piper effect. You know what I mean? Classic, plays the music. But no, it is directed. Like, he focuses on you because the young boy who was rejected, watched the whole thing. The music didn't have an effect on him. It's almost like the music is just part of the distraction, or maybe it's the key to his magic, but it's not like he's grabbing everyone in one go. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting, but I can explain it. You see, we need to have one annoying kid in order to lead the Rangers to.
Yes, I understand I know the plot, but yeah, when she was spirited away, I just wanted to say, for all of you who have seen the classic Willy Wonka, which is the only Willy Wonka you should ever expose yourself to, tell me you did not, that whole running hellish scene with the children, tell me you did not think of the Willy Wonka boat transition with the horrifying flashing lights. And
I see where you could get that. I personally did not see it that way.
The only thing missing was Gene Wilder screaming at you.
The only thing missing was Gene Wilder screaming at you and horrific images appearing in the background and the overwhelming feeling of going to, sink, all that stuff. Other than that, it's exactly the same.
Right? And also just, again, a very minor thing too. At the bus stop, when she finally arrives there, the sign it gives you a brief thing saying this bus stop is to the Goblin Salon.
Yeah.
But yeah, besides that, I was just like, this is a weird entrance, and I was honestly shocked because I had no clue what we were getting into. And one point is good, however, it's a lot of points of just like, I know what we're getting into, and I don't know if this is a place I want to go. So I guess maybe on that point, good job, and
So
maybe not.
I have further points with this. So when we shift to the Rangers, who are now talking about how children are going missing again, right?
Missing and turning up.
Yeah, and turning up because then it reveals that the bodies are physically there, but like Jay said, lobotomized. So you see a scene where like they're filling hospitals and they're like shaking their kids and being like, she's not moving, she's not saying anything.
She doesn't want to eat. She
Yeah.
doesn't.
So at this point, uh, I believe it's Geki brings out the big book of monsters or their history or whatever that book happens to need to be at that moment. Opens up and it's like it's a goblin. Goblins are creatures from the West, and so it interested me because this is the first time we see like regional creatures. Uh, so you get this kind of one. They were put in ice. Well, not ice. It was banished to the Phantom Zone. What was it? 170 million years ago, something like that.
Yeah.
There shouldn't be a concept of East and West, right? But here we are.
Well, there's also shouldn't be, a concept of humans with dinosaurs. But if we're taking liberties with science and histories, I'm not going to argue when Pangea took a hit.
And here's where we reveal this has been a paleontology podcast all along, and just critiquing everything wrong with Zyurangers.
This is our Matt Pat game theory moment, where it's just like, if they're from the time of the dinosaurs, why is everyone Japanese?
So and it appears the goblin appears, he eats their minds, and only the kids can see him, which makes it a problem. So they go run off. I think they just poof in, right? Again, it's just change of scene, and now they're with the kid who saw him.
Well, because they press a button and they're watching the hospital at their base, and at their base they just see in the hospital room the kid runs in, telling the doctor, trying to explain to him like, oh, the monster did this. The monster took them.
Yes. I remember this now.
And obviously doctors are just like, I mean, get the fuck away, kid. I'm trying to do medicine. And so that's when they're like, okay, there's our lead. And you know what, man? I gotta say it's pretty dang convenient to have someone just being there saying, no, it was a monster. Let me give you the description and the play-by-play.
Time out. I don't want to hear that when the Rangers are stupid in this episode, and I will get to this as we go along. So
then it just transitions. They are there.
Yeah, so they talk to the kid, and these fuckers, they don't ask really about the monster. They don't do anything like that. They see him holding a box, and he's telling them about Machiko, and they're like, ooh, and immediately start teasing him about his crush. So you had
that girl. You want to kiss her? Huh? Huh?
The best part.
Would sure suck if you got fucking rejected again.
The best part was it's Don, who you expect, but then it was also May, who you don't.
And I will say this is where it kind of shifts, and it doesn't exactly beat you over the head with it at the start like most episodes would, but this is very much going to be a Dawn episode. Like you'll get these episodes every once in a while of just like, oh, this Ranger's the focus today. And while they didn't lean in heavy with Dawn, they did a lot of stuff to set up the monster and the situation. In a way, because of just how childish Dawn is, he's the one who kind of...
It is not due to his childishness. It's due to the fact that he, too, is, like, after women. And that's literally the link. It's you have this kid with his innocent crush and this young man who wants to get his rocks off. His fossilized rocks off.
So it's two men meeting in the desert, both suffering from thirst.
Yeah. So yeah, and as they're teasing him about this, right? This is where it gets weird for me. Uh, you know what? This whole episode is weird. I feel like I've said that 7 times. Uh, the kid sees the goblin again, and the goblin isn't playing his fucking accordion. He's just trying to straight up kidnap a girl onto the bus.
Hey man, maybe he only learned the chords for like 4 songs. Like maybe he couldn't find the YouTube videos for like La Bamba. What do you want me to say?
I don't know. I'm just tired of hearing Wonderwall.
It was like the early 90s, dude. He couldn't go on YouTube and find that one instructor video that goes into good details about learning music.
That's fair. So the Rangers chase the goblin, but they can't see him. They cannot
They
see
think
him.
they're chasing the goblin. They're
Yeah.
just mainly going where screaming children are.
Yeah, and then the goblin just whips their ass because they can't see him. And so they're trying to fight the goblin. The goblin kicks them around, gets on the bus, I think with the girl, right? And at the time, the young boy is trying to stop them and is holding on to the monster, I think. Don is holding on to the boy, and then for some reason, it gets weird. It breaks, and the bus is visible. And then they get transported into this weird deserty area. And at this moment, all the kid cares about is his box.
Leaving us asking, what's in the box? Which, spoiler alert, really not worth it, but carry on.
So it is worth it if you play Animal Crossing.
That's fair.
So they're in the Lost World / the Goblin Salon. And they have this whole conversation, I believe, right? About how the box is important. No, that's a little bit later.
No, yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, when they both get sent there, he loses the box for a moment. Don helps him out, but then immediately, Goblin just appears.
Yeah, and then for some reason, the other Zyurangers are there too.
Now,
And
well, in all fairness, they came flailing in, so like a part of me thinks like they were also dealing with stuff. But no, it was very much like it. Unfortunately, this is an episode where it really highlights a big problem with a lot of shows where it's just like, no, it just needs to happen. You know what I mean? We're not going to explain it, give good information, or justify it just because this needed to happen for the sake of the next part of the story.
I
Because,
wonder.
let's be honest, it really breaks so much of the good that Rita had brought in when you knew, oh, she's not playing around. She's going to, you know what I mean, take advantage of isolating a single ranger. Or she's going to go out in full force to crush this person. This one took such a step back because it's like, oh, they have Don by himself. And at first I was excited because I'm like, okay, it's going to be him on his own. It's a tough situation. It's him and this kid, but it's a Don episode. Let's see how it goes. And then immediately after he gets tossed around a bit, the other Rangers just poof in.
Yeah.
And now it's a team fight. Now, it doesn't improve the situation any, but it also, I don't think it needed to happen because, as we'll find out later, it's not like they needed teamwork to get out of here anyway.
So I was actually wondering about this. Now that you mention it, you're right. They don't do a good job of explaining things, and things happen for the sake of the plot. But I wonder if this problem is a modern convention. You know what I mean? Like, we as viewers in what year is it? 2020? 2020 expect things to make a little bit more streamlined sense. And our disbelief is our suspension of disbelief is paired more strongly to these things. While it's a 90s show for children, well, not children, but for a younger audience, and hey, they're not going to ask the questions. They're not going to have a problem with it. So why should we bother with it? It's enough that the Rangers get from point A to point B, and this happens for.
But my general problem is, no, you're right. viewers today demand a lot more than what they did before. Like, that's why cartoons today, all of a sudden, it's necessary to have a love plot. It's necessary to have a certain level of battle scenes, or I mean, we don't just want like 80s Thundercats anymore. That was too loose for us. We want like
No one wanted
story.
80s
We want,
Thundercats, and I'll fight anyone who says they did. They did.
but so yeah, people generally do demand more now. But I'm holding it to the level of these past episodes though, where to me it's jarring that like the most leeway it was given before was just, oh, I was teleported right to the dino crystals, like literally right next to it. That was already a stretch, but you know what? He was still fighting 2-on-1. It was still a difficult situation. This is literally, here it is, because, and no, yeah, probably from a producer standpoint, they're like, okay, this isn't a serious episode. This is just going to be the Monster of the Day episode. We're not going to put any heavy thought into it. I don't know. It's just disappointing in a lot of ways that it just ended up so matter of fact.
You know what? I can accept that. So they start fighting the invisible creature, but they can't win, and the kid is trying to point them in the right direction. Which, in my opinion, that's my biggest issue. They didn't use the kid as like a bloodhound to like see and like do this. They didn't do the whole let's throw flour on him, and it's just them getting their ass kicked and hoping to hit him. Well, as they're fighting, Bookback and Topat come for the kid, and while he manages to escape again, Bookback takes the box.
And at that point, everyone just manages to escape.
Yeah.
No reason, no justification. Just, hey, we all escaped the Goblin Salon, and now we're by the bus stop.
I don't know what the scene was that happened next because I have notes written, but it's just information. So, do you know?
They're at the bus stop. Yeah, here's what happens. So they're at the bus stop, and they're kind of just analyzing things because they're like, man, we can't see it. How are we supposed to deal with this? When I believe it was May who brings up, well, according to the legends, I mean, goblins become visible if you make them switch their shoes.
Okay,
so
because I had that written down, but I didn't know if there was a scene before it or whatever. But.
And so it's just them talking about that, and they're like, okay, well, that's the plan, but how are we going to make this happen? And while they're trying to figure this out, the kid, I guess, him realizing he doesn't have his box, just bolts because he's just, oh, well, actually, the kid asked him, he's like, hey, y'all got to help me get my box back. And Goshi is just like, hey, look, yeah, we want to help you, but there are way more pressing issues right now than your gift to your little girly friend, which upsets him, and he just takes off.
He calls him useless and takes him off.
Yeah,
which
he's
is
like, yo,
true.
useless, I'll do it myself. And Don just goes after him.
Okay, so here's where it gets even muddier for me. Don goes after them. He asks what's in the box, and the boy explains it's a caterpillar that will turn into a great purple butterfly, which, again, was worth a decent amount in Animal Crossing. However, one, Don kind of makes fun of him. He's like, girls won't like that. You have to give them something important to you. And he's like, fuck you, it is important to me. Because apparently the caterpillar was from
Oh my god, this is the best backstory of the dumbest plot you could ever give me.
Yeah, it does come off as very 90s, doesn't it? The caterpillar was from his dad, who is in jail and a drunk.
Yeah, he got drunk and stole something, and now he's serving time.
Yeah, and he's basically an orphan with mommy issues, and that's why he likes Machiko, I think. But it never explained why
He full on goes like, she looks like him when she was young, and she's so pretty and smart as my mom was. And I'm just like, yeesh.
Look,
as a psych major, you never want to see anyone go full Freud.
I mean, yeah, there's nothing I can contribute to that one. So, uh, which doesn't explain why she rejected him the first time or anything. It's just okay, fine. Then it switches to the goblin in his cave, and I love these scenes. The goblin is playing, and the putties are dancing. Toppat is cooking the children's minds in a stir fry. That is freaky. But no, I love these scenes where it's like just the villains being villainy and campy, because it gives it the feeling of a fairy tale, because it's always, oh, they have a little party, they have a little get together, and then they fall asleep or whatever. You know what I mean? It also gives levity to the situation, because it shows that even though the Power Rangers are taking this seriously, or the Zyurangers, they're taking this seriously. For the villains, it's just a fucking Tuesday,
Going into the scene, seeing the putties dance, you know what honestly it reminded me of?
Hmm.
It reminded me of like 90s Nintendo 64. It just reminds me of the Nintendo 64 games where it's just like, hey, if you play these songs by the Re-Deads, they actually just dance. You know what I mean?
Oh
Because
yeah.
it's like, these are the enemies. And like you said, it's like they're the enemies, but there's character to them. There is like a lot more. But then it immediately dives into, the horrifying thought of just this creature just eating the children's minds. And I'm just like, oh. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I'm like, it has to get back to, there has to be a way to salvage that. But it's truly like, it truly kind of shows that, like, as fun as this scene is, this is evil. I mean, he just like, just now raised the stakes for everyone involved, for the heroes who are still already handicapped.
Yeah, so like, and you see it, because Bookback eats the caterpillar, the goblin eats and then falls asleep, and I'm like, did he eat all those children's minds? Are they gone? But then the Rangers show up, they peek into the cave, see everybody asleep.
Oh, real quick, Toppat as a chef, cool. Even in his dreams, did you like my cooking? Like, gotta say, I can't just gloss over that. I love these two guys.
So, Toru is the name of the kid, apparently.
Very Jackie Chan adventures, okay.
So Toru goes in and tries to switch the shoes. However, Bandora just casually peeks in and wakes the goblin. But Geki, I'll admit this is kind of clever. Because they can see the footprints, he tells them they've already switched the shoes and throws something directly at the goblin. And the goblin's like, oh no! And so everyone freaks out, and he starts switching his shoes, which of course makes him actually visible. So, I love the fact that Toppat and Bookback just fucking bail. You saw that, right?
Well, what are they supposed to do about this? You know what I mean?
I don't know. I assume they are also like henchmen and monsters. Like, they should have some ability.
Jonathan,
like, they're not Griffiths,
as far as I'm concerned, they're just two cosplayers who are there for a good time.
I mean, that's fair. So the fighting with the weapons, absolutely superb. And I don't know, I'm liking all these fight scenes, and it makes me happy to see them. It makes me pumped. At that moment, though, he has to play his music, and it hurts them, so they finally morph. And their theme starts playing throughout. So I'm like, okay, this is the end for the Goblin. And of course, yeah, they combine to form Howling Cannon. Bye Goblin.
Before that, though, before they combine, they do that classic team attack, but in like waves that they do. So you got like the Yellow Ranger and the Blue Ranger both going and striking.
Yeah.
Or it might have been yellow and pink. But you know what I mean? It's like, here's these two go and attack, then the next two go and attack, and then here comes the Red Ranger following it up.
Yeah.
And that's a scene that they use quite a bit in Power Rangers. So it was nice to finally like kind of see that here.
So, Bye Goblin, and this is our first Monster of the Day episode. It follows the formula and everything. And so he's defeated, the kids wake up.
Worth noting, completely defeated. He like turned to clay. Like,
Yeah.
completely destroyed.
So Toru ends up chasing after Bookback, demanding his caterpillar back, and Bookback apparently is so useless he cannot defeat like a 7-year-old. And he's on his knees, he's like, I'm sorry, I don't have it. I ate it.
Hey, hey, homeboy, you're skipping over the Megazord section.
The Megazord section, that was a Megazord.
Yeah, they blew him up, and he was completely in rubble. And Bandora is just like, I have no choice. Spirit of the evil spirits of the earth. So they make him grow. And so yeah, they call upon the Guardian Beast. At first, they try and go at it in the Beast tank. They got a good blow in. Again, albeit, dude, very quick fight. Very quick fight.
I don't even remember it.
Probably wasn't worth. Yeah, probably not really worth remembering. Honestly, here's the thing. So they're beating his ass. So he starts playing his music and starts causing this weird ass hallucination bit. So like they're phasing in and out of the city. At one point, he's looking like buildings, and then coming back to normal.
I remember this now, yes.
Yeah, it was really trippy. However, again, it doesn't mean anything because it's not like they did anything special to defeat it. They literally just started beating his ass harder. Like they literally started whooping him until he dropped the accordion and they didn't have to worry about it. Then they called upon the God Horn and just finished him off. So, and when they do, that's when you see all the souls leave from the explosion and enter back into the children. And that's displayed by like, Machiko being like, Mom, I'm hungry. And then, all the parents know, like, oh, thank goodness things are back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, very brief, really not worth highlighting, but also.
But it's worth it to interrupt my ending.
Look, man, people come to us for a play-by-play. I get it. It was the break time. They still deserve the right to know.
So, fine. At that moment, let's fast forward again. Bookback is on his knees. He's like, I don't have it anymore. I ate it. And he starts burping, and suddenly the butterfly flies out of his mouth.
See, this is what confuses me by how you forgot there was a Megazord
No.
section.
Yeah, you're right.
Don sees this from the Megazord. Is like, I got it. You just see this. You just see him standing on the top of it. He leaps off and grabs it in midair to take back to Toru.
You know why? Because this is all stupid at the end. Because that happens, and then it shifts scenes. He gives the butterfly to Machiko. It flies away. They hold hands. End. So overall, this episode, for me, it was okay. I feel like my biggest gripe with it, because it could have been a good episode. My biggest gripe with it is I feel like the focus on Machiko and this kid, or specifically this kid and his butterfly, made the entire thing weaker instead of it being like, well, no, I like her and I need to save her. You know what I mean? And instead of using it, this constant going back to this butterfly and box and shit just made it just was unnecessary. What about you? What do you think?
It was just the issue of things just happening to happen. Like, I mean, hell, the fact that we barely remembered the kid's name and had to look it up because I honestly don't remember it being stated. Like, there's so many things that are easy to gloss over because it happened just to make this next part happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It honestly, the most enjoyable parts to me, besides the weapon choreography in the fights, was just seeing Tot, Pat, and Bookback. Those were the highlights of this for me. This episode wasn't anything
Spectacular.
great, which was even more disappointing because I was like, this was our first Ranger episode in a way where, and again, maybe you could just not count it just because Don was more involved with the kid. But to me, I was like, okay, this was a Don episode, and it was just
I'm gonna say
so much.
I'm gonna say it wasn't a Don episode because it didn't focus on him. What it focused
Yeah,
on was he was the connection to the kid, but no more so than say Geki was in the not Geki. I'm
Which
forgetting.
one? Goshi?
No,
What?
I feel like there was other
Meg?
episodes. No, hold on. Yeah, thank you for listing all of them for me. I feel like there was
Farza?
another episode. There was another episode where they had a connection to a kid, but I think I'm thinking of Jetman.
Yeah,
Because I
you're
don't.
probably thinking about the Dove one because this was like our first like kid focus one.
Well, no, we've had a lot of kids being kidnapped
Well,
and
okay, no,
cheated
but like
and
whereas like a kid plays a prominent role in the plot.
all right.
But that being
Oh,
said, you know what I mean? Maybe some positive points. You know what I mean? Geki tricking them. Where I'm like, okay, so they're not completely stupid. Again, I love the choreography. I think this one blows Jetman way out out of the water. The only thing missing is a crotch grab and a punch to the face from Black Ranger.
dude,
But
I miss crotch grabs and face punches.
but
That's
overall, and I wrote this down, just kind of pretty straightforward to the point that it became predictable and boring.
yeah. Well, that's what Monster of the Days are for.
Yeah,
To
but hey, I'm gonna say though, it doesn't always have to be that way because of this next episode.
oh yeah, you know what? This one was interesting. So, episode 8. Do you remember the title? Because I didn't write it
Terror,
down.
eaten in an instant.
There we go. So it opens
Which,
with the
hey,
kid.
I just want to say, I take fairly detailed notes as I'm going through episodes. Like from the beginning, since we started this, I've been taking notes. I'm currently on page 11 of my notes from like all our episodes. But that being said, seeing what this one episode was going to be, I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to enjoy this. I'm not going to put any more thought than necessary into this because, my God, it's the Pudgy Pig.
Dude, and it functioned almost exactly the same as
Pretty much.
the Mighty Morphin episode. So
But let's get into it. Let's get into it.
So this opens with perhaps the most creative way to bully. It opens with a kid in a tree trying to get a plane. Other kids are down below him making fun of him, calling him Minnesota fat. And I don't even know what to do with that. I'm just like,
Hey,
creative
look,
kids,
Japan,
okay.
just because it's true doesn't mean you have the right to say it.
I mean, they took the most factual way to make fun of him because he is both a chunkier kid and apparently, as he reveals to Boy, from Minnesota, born in Minnesota. So Boy finds him, catches him as he falls.
Fly,
And
fat ass, fly.
you can't say that about children. Though by this
Dude,
point, he's
I was
probably
gonna
like,
say, he's in his 40s right now.
okay, how do you know he's still fat or still from Minnesota?
You know what? On that note, I'll apologize.
So I would say this would probably be our first real Ranger focused episode. Not Ranger focused episode, but Ranger episode because Boy is directly dealing with this kid and his family. Because they're a family of big eaters. They invite him to eat and they're like nom 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 nom. Now Bookback and Topat watch and they're like, oh god, that food looks good. Bandora comes out and she's groaning and moaning because she gained 10 pounds after sleeping for all that time. And she's like, I'm not eating until I lose it, basically. And then probably the best part, she asks Topat if she's pretty. And Topat adjusts his monocle and is like, I'm not wearing my glasses. But the family...
Hey, Bandora. Girl, you looking good. Slay queen.
Yeah. The family explains they eat together because they can't go out often and they're usually busy, but that is their family bond. But Bandora proves that she's not just destructive, but she can be every bit as petty as Rita. Because she looks at the food and she's like, ugh, if I can't eat, I don't want other people to eat. And she, confusing name, she demands that Dora Cersei be made. Now, Pleprecon is like, was a failure, but fine. I'll make it because you demand it. He brings it to life, and it's the fucking Pudgy pig.
It was. I'm all smiles at this point. One, because he labeled it a failure, and two, because literally once he's made, Bandora's response is, "Pleprecon, what is that?"
Yeah. She is not impressed, and I'm like, I think that was everyone's response to this pig. And the best part about it is, at this point, I realize that it's probably going to be the same fucking plot. And I'm just like, okay, I'm buckled in for this. So apparently the scene shifts. They sit down to eat, the family of Minnesota Fat. Did he have a name? Did we get his name?
The kid's name?
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
Mamoru.
yeah, I was gonna say it was something with an M. I remember that.
So Mamoru and his family are sitting down eating, or about to, but then their food disappears, some of it, and they start blaming each other. And
Well, piece by piece.
yeah,
like,
piece by piece. Very good.
At first, the child goes for his food, goes to put soy sauce on it, and then I realized the way this is being shown is you just see the pig's hand goes, gets on the plate, and then immediately vanishes.
Even better.
And so he turns to his mother. Oh, go on.
No, go on.
Turns to his mother. He's like, "Did you take my food? What? Why would you say that? This is how we bond." She goes to reach for her food. The pig's hand goes. Food vanishes. They both look at the father. It's like, "Dad, did you steal our food?" And him again is just like, "Why would y'all even? No, come on, there's plenty of food. Everyone eat. His food's gone. Did one of y'all take my hamburger steak?"
And the best part for me, because yeah, you seeing the pig's hand go and makes it disappear, but but in between those scenes, you see him shuffle about. So he does this little shuffling run, implying that he's moving super fast, and they're not seeing him. And it's ridiculous. So he's doing that. They're fighting over food, and it gets ridiculous because they start throwing plates, flipping tables. And the Pudgy pig steps out, and he's like, "Oh," because I neglected to mention it because it was also not terribly important. They're a family of grocers, so they have a grocery store, and so he just takes away all their food again. He eats it all, and then goes out to cause chaos. Well, at that point, it shifts, and Boy is just walking around, and he sees Mamoru, who is weak.
Dude, he's not walking around.
No,
Do you
he
not
flips
remember how
onto the scene. You're right.
He does like 7 flips before landing in front of the bench and being like, "Oh, hey,
Teenagers
what's
with
wrong?"
attitude, even in Japan, huh? Yeah. So he asks him what's wrong, and turns out the boy hasn't eaten in 3 days. Not boy, but Mamoru hasn't
Dude,
eaten
that's
in
what
3
I've been
days.
saying. That's what I've been saying, kid. If you say boy,
Uh,
it's
and he's lost weight. His family's broken, and Boy's like, "Hey, don't worry, I'll feed you." He gets him a burger, and it vanishes. And he's like, "Even you would steal my food?" And Boy's like, "No." So,
dude. Realize this is both of them looking at the burger at the same time. What the hell does he think happened there?
yeah, you're right. But he stands up, and Boy's like, "I think something might be going on, but I'll help you." And the boy gets up, and not the boy, sorry. Mamoru stands up, places his head against him, and like kind of cries, like, "I'm so hungry." And then his fucking pants fall down.
Yeah, because that's something he said where he's just like, "I haven't eaten so long. My pants are loose now." So yeah, he stands up to embrace it. I swear, this was like some King of the Hill shit. We're just like, I'm like, dude, look, I'm not putting this above Sentai. I mean, we got a panty shot in like the 2nd episode, but I didn't expect this.
And I was like, this is such a cheap gag. I know I should laugh, but I haven't.
Dude,
Uh,
in all reality, I watched this at like 2 in the morning. I lost my shit. This was the funniest thing to me. And at that point, I was just like, no notes. Just don't think about this. Just feel it.
So, it shifts again. Dora Cersei is in the book. It showed up in Greece and caused people to fight by eating all of their food.
Oh, not everyone's food. It literally went after the king.
Yeah,
King and the prince, and stole their food. And basically, just like you saw with the family earlier, they were two great rulers, but by taking the food, pitting them against each other, like the kingdom fell because their rulers just couldn't keep it together, and then he went and feasted throughout the land. And
it's weird to me because if they wanted that concept, they should have used the heartbeat because that literally happened. But in the sense of it stole the food of one dude and prevented him from eating till he was literally skin and bones. But apparently it was defeated by like the cattle of Zeus and the herb Moly.
it was like literally the legendary cattle in the Odyssey, and yeah, and a legendary herb.
So I was like, one, what the fuck am I listening to, Japan? But two, I was like, so they used the holy moly?
I hate. I just hate.
So Dora Cersei is spreading around. He's eating everything. And they try to stop. The Rangers try to stop him, and he blasts them with like snot air, like air from his nose.
Which, in all fairness, this is pretty much the scene you saw in Power Rangers.
Yes, I mentioned that it was exactly the same scene. They're fighting. You see him eat the weapons. You see
Like
his
one
tail
by
get.
one, he starts grabbing them and stuffing the weapons in his mouth, and every time he
His tail gets an erection.
Yeah.
At that moment, a mysterious golfer hits Dora Cersei with a golf ball, and he keeps doing it. And when the Rangers are like, "Whoa," I first thought it was going to be Barza because I'm like, "Is he finally doing something useful?" But no, the world begins to spin, and the Rangers are transported into this magic forest.
Dude, I gotta say, out of all the ways to bail the Rangers out of a tight situation, pelting the monster with golf balls, magical golf balls. You know what? Wouldn't have never guessed.
We're gonna get to this because it has to do with the character, and I really like this character.
But
It's
then,
this
yeah, they're
old man.
transported to this wondrous forest, and it's mushrooms everywhere. Like think about like fantasy levels where it's just like obviously this is mystical woodland, not just I'm in the woods.
And so this old man, he has these like little sunglasses, longer hair, a mustache, and like a goatee, and he just gives them shit. He's like, "You're green for fighting him without a plan." And then he reveals himself as Gnome, a fairy tale creature. And when Dan questions him, he turns a fucking mushroom into a ball and beams him in the head with it. But it turns out he's a friend of Barza's, and that's why he chose to help. And I mean, I like Bart. I mean, not Barza. I like Gnome. He's a natural dick. And they're like, "Oh, you can help us." And he's like, "Yeah, no, I'm not that kind of guy. But you can play a game for it." And he makes a shit ton of food appear on the table. And he's like, "You got to eat it all. I won't give you the holy moly." And legit, seeing all that food made me hungry.
Dude,
I
like
have the bad
really,
habit of not eating all day. So seeing all of that, some good Japanese food.
yeah, man. I'm starving. I haven't eaten too much today either. Even just remembering this scene, I'm just like, God damn.
So seeing it, they all start tucking in. May's the first one to go out, but they're eating as much as they can. And boy, is has to be the anchor. And the whole time I'm like, that's going to refill. I know that's going to refill. So Boy's pushing through it, and then suddenly he's like, yay, we did it. But then there's just one carrot left, and he's like, I don't like carrots. They make me dizzy just looking at them.
Because, yeah,
And
why not?
it's such a stupid point of suspense, but he's looking at it, and then in the background you just hear the slow march version of the theme song. He eats it, and he's excited, but then the carrot reappears, and he like despairs. He's just like, no! Because he's too full, and who wants to eat a carrot, apparently? That being said, Gnome is like, look again, and it's the holy moly. And he just explains, he's like, was moved by the passion you had to help the kid. And I'm just like, okay, guy, if that's what it takes. So they warp back, and it's a fucking riot, right?
Yeah, he had gone through restaurants and different stores and just gone throughout like the whole like city block.
There's police people running around. There's people with weapons in the streets. It's just intense. And then you see the exact same scene from Power Rangers again. They're all up on the building, each with food in their hand, which I don't know where they got it from if he's been everywhere. But they start throwing the Pudgy pig food, and he's like, nom, 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 nom. And then finally, Boy is like, here, I got a sandwich for you, and shoves the holy moly in it, tosses it to him. And he, he's defeated, right? He goes like,
it literally, it's not that it straight out defeats him. It makes him nauseous. You just see this yellow gas burst out of him. He starts throwing everything up, including their weapons, and he deflates.
Yeah. And
they pull all the air out of the costume, and he just squeezes in of himself.
And here's
leads to like one of my favorite parts, because Bandora is just like, oh no. I mean, look at him. The only hope right now is if I make him grow, and oh no, I'm too hungry for this shit. So she does nothing.
She passes out from not eating. And then things are back to normal. The Rangers are invited to eat with the family. But, there's a huge amount of food, and they're like, no. And Boy is sacrificed. They try to sacrifice him to the family, because they're like, at least, Boy, you come. And they're pushing him towards him. And then he's like, we're a greengrocer. Look, we have this big-ass carrot for you. And he passes out. And they put him on like their shoulders and shit, and rush him out. The funniest shit. Especially since once they get far enough away, they just kind of look at each other and toss him. And that's where it ends. So yeah, what did you think about this episode? I have given the Pudgy Pig shit constantly in Power Rangers, but how do you think it held up in Sentai?
Look, albeit it came off the heels of an episode I really didn't like, so I was already looking at it in a more favorable light. But like I said, when it came to Dora Goblin, the enjoyable moments came from the side parts. The side characters, and so this one was just so wacky in a number of ways. Like the family whose their bond is eating. How like literally how thin the boy gets, to the point where he stands up and his pants fall. To the golfing gnome who saves them. And their trial is eat all the food in front of you. All of this was just so goofy, but in an enjoyable manner.
It gave the Rangers the chance to be the comedic relief, and gave them the chance to interact with the world that we haven't seen them be able to do yet.
And it was great, especially, you're right, this was pretty much the first Ranger episode with Boy, and they carried it well because I mean he kept eating because he's attached to this kid and wants to make sure he's okay. And even then, they make him the punchline by like, oh, apparently he has a problem with carrots. Can't wait for the giant carrot king monster. But it was far more enjoyable because, and even comparing it to the last one, when they were in a jam, someone specifically came and saved them. It's not, oh, they just walked away and that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything. I had to suspend my belief, sure, but not to the degree that last episode had me do. And I got more Bandora in this one, which is always a plus. I got again, it was all the side characters and then the Rangers also. It was great. I enjoyed this far more than the last one.
I did
And
love this
compared to the
episode.
American counterpoint, I love that it was just as petty.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I love the fact that Rita was just as petty, but infinitely more destructive. So you know what? Like, I don't mind her ruining people's day just because she can do it. I do mind if that's all she does. But here, Bandora shows her destructive nature and her pettiness. I like the fact that these characters got time to be. Boy didn't have to be part of the Rangers. He made a friend out, well, friend, but he met somebody outside of them and got to deal with them, and experience something new. You got to see the battle scenes again. Are interesting and fun, and I can tell you next episode there's gonna be a real one that I want to like look at because it was amazing. Here you see hints of that. You see them doing these very well choreographed, very fluid fights that even as they're losing, it feels like the motion of battle is continuing. And that's something. It's something great, I think. So overall, I have to say this is probably my favorite episode of the series so far because it's the first one that's not super tied to, oh well, I can't enjoy this one on its own because it's tied to another. I can't uh I can't really say anything about these characters because I don't know them yet. This is the first one we get to enjoy. So let's rate this. Uh we'll start with fucking the Goblin. Dora Goblin.
Or Goblin.
Where would you put Dora Goblin on our list?
I put him as an E because I don't think he was an outright failure. Like he stuck to a theme well enough. He was still fairly successful as a monster, but nothing about him was likable or really too memorable in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Did we have another E?
Huh?
Did we have another E?
That might have been Dora Minotaur just because all he was a Minotaur.
That sounds like that's correct.
But it was very much it was very much he exactly wasn't his design was okay. It wasn't anything special. It was literally just here's a humanoid goblin looking man. His power was okay. They did a lot of unique ways to demonstrate it. But he overall very forgetful. I mean, hell, you didn't even remember the Megazord fight against him, which showcased his powers more than any of it. So, you know what it is? It was the fact that literally the moment they could see him, he was non-issue. He was only a threat depending on his invisibility, nothing else.
You know what? I can agree with this. So, let's talk turkey. What about the pig?
I actually, and you might disagree with this, I ranked him as a C.
Let's see. Why C?
Because, And again, I'll full on admit my bias got in it. I grew up. This is one of the episodes I could watch at any point because we had the VHS tape at my grandma's house. But I love everything that went into this in the terms of like, oh, make this one to get rid of their food. I hate it. Like the Bandora and Pleprecon were already against it, but they're like, whatever, send it down. The fact that literally it's one strong attribute besides it being able to eat anything is like how it just literally just squeaks about it's devouring their food. Like it was just old school like comedy shtick where you turn away and someone removes your plate and so you turn back. It's like so Tom and Jerry in a lot of ways. It was goofy, and then just the fact that he failed because oh, and also just the fact that it did tie him to this theme of like, oh, only this sacred herb could do it. So it wasn't the Rangers overcoming it through their own skill. It kept to this lore and legend. While yes, you could say, well, so did Dora Goblin. I felt like if they didn't pull out the holy moly, could they have really won? You know what I mean?
That's a good question. And here's what I'm gonna say. You are conflating the episode with the monster. Because yes, the episode was a solid episode. It was funny, it was good. That does not make the monster good. In terms of its design, we knocked Dora Minotaur because it was just a Minotaur. This is literally a pig in a fucking gladiator helmet. That design is poor. We gave Pimp Daddy what's his name? Dora Skeleton a B because of his powers and because of his design. To give what's his face a C with such a weak ass design and such limited powers.
Dude,
It feels wrong.
You're saying limited powers though. Arguably, he was the most successful monster so far.
He was, but he didn't affect
Like
the Rangers.
The only other one that was up there is maybe not Griforzor, Sphinx, Dora Sphinx. In terms of like actually trapping a lot of people, he caused riots, and it's important to note because it's easy to gloss over in terms of everything. The fact that he was able to eat the legendary weapons, which mean more in this series than they did in Power Rangers. Because in Power Rangers, they were just their weapons. These are the legendary weapons. We've seen just the full extent. Like, literally, the sword itself is what found the dino crystals for them. The fact that he was able to disarm and eat them, and his only weakness was tied to, again, another legendary thing of his own lore, I think it's more commendable.
Look, I get what you're saying, but ultimately he didn't affect the Rangers like at all. So maybe they would have got their ass beat, but we didn't even get to see that. They got their weapons eaten and then they got pulled out.
Yeah, but do you know why they were pulled out?
Dora Skeleton kicked their asses. Dora Sphinx kicked their asses. Griforzor kicked their asses. They had an effect on the Rangers as opposed to this, who mostly had an effect on everybody else. Hell, the Rangers didn't even get their food stolen, so there wasn't even a scene of like Don being like, "My taco, you asshole," and going crazy for a bit. You know what I mean? Ultimately, this monster was divorced from the Rangers.
But in all fairness, though, you're saying they didn't even get their ass beat. But the moment they were saved, literally the man who saved them is just like, "Ha! How green are y'all to even dare to attempt to face it without?"
Yeah, but he's an asshole. He was going to be an asshole regardless. He even admits it.
No, yeah, he just says like, "I'm a natural baddie." But again, to me, it's just one of those things where they went and had to be bailed out because it was a no-win situation.
And you think that makes it just below Door Sphinx?
Fine, I'm willing to put him at a D.
There we
I'll
go.
put him the same level as a Minotaur.
I thought Minotaur was E with Dora Goblin.
Oh wait, who do we put as D?
I don't think we have a D. Actually, it might be Dora Titan. We'll have to check. I've been meaning to go through and listen and make sure we wrote all these down.
Yeah, we should chart this, and we can eventually put that chart up.
Yeah, I was planning for all you at home. I was planning on making like a tier list and updating it as we go along, and that way y'all can join us and decide how wrong we are.
It's also worth noting that we want to see where y'all place these guys. I mean, this is our opinions. Hell, like I said, I was originally putting this through the C because I just generally this monster is a bit close to home. So you know what I mean? I could be like, oh yeah, this is a C because it was funny and it did this and this. But I just want people to come out and be like, bitch, this is F tier. It's a pig in a fucking hat. Its arms are in its fucking mouth.
Yeah.
It's more like a roach than it is a pig. So yeah, we want to get y'all involved. Y'all make sure y'all let us know how y'all rank these because I mean, fucking want your opinion, yo. But,
all right.
Okay, fine. I'll put him as a D.
Well, that's good because that's where I put him.
Still D for a degree. He's still passing in my book.
And on that note, let's go. Do you have anything else you want to cover?
You know, we were hoping to get to the Monster of the Day episodes, and I know we're hopping right back into a two-parter, but you know, seeing as this was our first month, these were our first two Monster of the Day episodes. I hope they get only better because Dora Goblin did really nothing for me.
Yeah.
And so you know what? I hope that, and while Terror Eaten in an Instant, I personally enjoyed. If once they really enter Monster of the Day territory, or even just the Ranger episodes, I want more.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I'm interested to see how they develop and to get to some of the more cheesier things that we know that possible. That being said, I know we're like, oh, it's Monster of the Day. We can just kind of gloss over things and go. We have been talking for almost an hour and a half without anything edited so far. So who knows? Maybe we're just gonna talk. So
This is what it means to go even further.
So, on that note, do you have our quote?
Yes. You know, and this makes sense since Geki has been the source of almost all the quotes. Since these two episodes didn't exactly rally hopeful intentions, the quote for the day comes from the evil witch Bandora, who says, "I can't stand it anymore. I'm too hungry to do anything."
Yeah. And on that note, let's go get something to eat. I'm hungry.
Yes. Okay, guys. We'll see you next time. Make sure you follow us on wherever you can, wherever we decide to throw this into the void.
We have a Twitter at Chojin Chumps. I still have no followers, and it makes me sad. But also, I haven't posted any of these, so y'all don't know about it yet. So we're hoping to get these put out pretty soon.
Probably just YouTube. I think we're just eventually gonna take the plunge, get a generic thumbnail, and get it out there.
Yeah. All right then. Peace.
See you next time.